Southern California, good morning, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have quite a bit to get into in the world of Southern California sports, such as LAFC. They finally did it. They won the MLS Cup with all the talent they had on their team. How did LAFC outlast the Philadelphia Union even when the Union had them on the ropes? And the Chargers narrowly escaped a loss against the Atlanta Falcons, but they pulled it out for some reason because they're the Chargers. This week they have a primetime showdown on Sunday night against the San Francisco 49ers. Speaking of the NFC West, the Rams continue to disappoint me as they fell to the Bucs in the waning seconds of the fourth quarter. Is it over for the Rams? Also, the Kings are starting to do decently better than the Ducks, that's for sure. And USC football needs to get their you-know-what together. They're winning games, but they're banged up as heck. Can they continue their momentum going into today's game against Colorado? And UCLA looks sharp as ever, but they had a little bit of a scare against Arizona State. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday morning, which is where I'm at, Friday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have made yourself into episode 111 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Apologies for not going live last week as I was on vacation, and apologies if I'm going live earlier than normal just because I actually got an emergency text saying I have to take care of something at 2 p.m. So if I were to do my show at noon, it would not work out. So either way, I am here. I'm glad to be back after a week off. Last week, I went to Cabo San Lucas and Ensenadas. I went on a cruise, and it was fun. I just got to get that out of the way real quick, and I had a great time listening to bands musicians such as Deke Dickerson, Los Lobos. It was just a fun time. I got to gamble a little, and let's just say I made some money. I was wise with my money. I actually profited. I profited more than I thought I would, so that's why you got to be wise with your money, and you got to take care of it. But without any further delay, let's get on in to that Southern California sports action. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio. You can find IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at IE Sports Radio. And you can follow them on Facebook by typing in the word IE then Sports then Radio in the search bar. They also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com. And when you go to the website, you will be able to see a Patreon link at the top, which starts at $5 a month. This will get you a shout out from all of our shows, including this one, and higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of IE Sports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment with Larry B. Because for the past 8 years and counting, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all sports cities around the country. All the while, we've been continuing to be by the fans and for the fans. With your help, we are ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Key to the Gate, and a donor that wishes to remain anonymous. Alright, now let's get on into the Southern California sports action as we welcome Larry B in the chat room, as well as Arthur Parsons. He says, good morning, Teran, have a great show. And Pierre Moss has the day off as well. He says, Gonna show my man Teran some love on his day off. I appreciate you, Pierre. And Larry B thinks he's so funny. He says, Chargers suck. Not true. Rams suck. Very true. LA Galaxy is annoying. Kinda true. LAFC did it. Very true. USC, I don't want to get too happy. Agreed. Stupid UCLA is looking good. You stupid UCLA. That one made my day. Stupid UCLA is looking good. Dodgers, don't get me started. The Angels are terrible. The Ducks are a joke, LOL, and the Lakers are a bigger joke. Yeah, he pretty much nailed it with practically almost all of them, except for the Chargers. They're not doing too bad considering their state. Their state of their team. They're not terrible. And Angela says, hey, Teran, go Cardinals. Oh, we're going to be getting into that momentarily. And no, Larry, almost true. I'll give you almost. You get pretty much an A for effort. But he does mention, the first thing he mentioned was the Chargers, so we might as well just jump into that. So, yeah, this game was a complete gong show. Whenever the Falcons and the Chargers meet, it's very, very gong show-like. There's always like this wacky ending where either a team blows a lead and then the other team wins. It's kind of been that way for the Falcons going the other way. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that it's come to this. But the Chargers, they were able to narrowly escape with a victory. They did not have Keenan Allen. They did not have Mike Williams. They didn't have Joey Bosa. Their offensive line is decimated to all but heck. But they were able to pull out the win. Their run defense continues to be complete garbage because, well, it just is. But one play that I did like from the Chargers defense was, and I hate to pick on this guy, Khalil Mack ripped the ball out of Drake London's hands, and God bless Drake London, the former USC star. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say this is a rookie mistake, but he just did not have the ball firmly secured, and Khalil Mack just ripped it out of his hands, and he was just able to run all the way pretty much to midfield, and eventually that wound up backfiring because poor Justin Herbert, he threw an interception as he was trying to find Josh Palmer. The Chargers wide receiver core has gotten so thin that their wide receiver one is Joshua Palmer. Joshua Palmer from Tennessee. I think it was a fourth round pick. Either way, it's come to that because Jalen Guyton's out for the season. Keenan Allen is out for who knows how long. And Mike Williams, I think, is out for a couple more weeks. It's been that bad for the Chargers. Yet they're still 5-3. So it's quite astounding if you ask me. It's a miracle they're 5-3. And they're only one game back of the Kansas City Chiefs. But overall, their kicker is even injured. Dustin Hopkins is out with injury. And they had to get yet another kicker as it's basically a revolving door of kickers for the Chargers, which is kind of the new norm just because they just can't seem to find that perfect kicker. And funny thing is that they actually faced one of their former kickers, Younghoe Koo, and unfortunately for the poor guy, he missed a field goal, which could have put the Falcons up 20 to 14. But in his defense, it was a 51-yarder. So Cameron Dicker was their new kicker. I like that. Dicker the kicker. That's what everyone's calling him. As he made the game-tying field goal, and he eventually made the game-winning field goal as the Chargers were able to win 20 to 17, which is very nice. And as the result of making the game-tying field goal and the game-winning field goal, he was named the AFC West Special Teams Player of the Week, which That's awesome. It's twice the Chargers have gotten a kicker named to AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. It's funny because the Chargers struggle with special teams. Their special teams is not so special. As we welcome Niners Jess in the chat room, she says, "Go Niners." Yeah, I'll be getting into that in a little bit. But last week I did not talk about the Chargers. Even if I did go live, I wouldn't have talked about the Chargers because they were on bye. So yeah. Let's jump on into Week 10 for the Chargers. So Week 10, they have a Sunday Night Football showdown against the San Francisco 49ers. This one's going to be a rough battle. And this is kind of where the Chargers' schedule really picks up. This is kind of the point of no return. Because they've got the Niners this week. They've got the Chiefs the following week. Did I also just mention the Chiefs-Chargers game has now been flexed to Sunday Night Football because the Steelers and the Bengals don't know how to play football. I'm just kidding. The Chiefs-Chargers got flexed to Sunday Night Football because, unfortunately for the Steelers, they're having a rough season, and the Bengals... Everyone talks about the Chargers not living up to expectations. What about the Bengals? Like, they made it to the Super Bowl, and they're kind of having a Super Bowl hangover. Not as much as the Rams. As we welcome Mike Pat in the chat room, he says, "Have a great show, sir. Appreciate you." Anyway, so as for the Chargers-Niners, okay, this one's going to, like I said, it's going to be a very tough game just because the Niners have Christian McCaffrey. They just recently got him. Deebo Samuel is most likely coming back. But before I continue on with the roster, I feel bad for this former Charger. Jason Verrett is out with, I think, in his Achilles injury. Either way, it's a season-ending injury he suffered in practice, and I feel for the poor guy because he just has bad injury luck, and I feel so sad. And as a former Charger, it just breaks my heart to see him missing the entire season. It's just not a fun feeling. So get well, Jason Verrett. You're going to come back twice as strong. I know you will. So there's that. But for the Chargers and Niners, this is going to be a good matchup. I actually predicted this was going to be a primetime matchup. I didn't specifically say it was going to be on Sunday night or Thursday night or Monday night. I just predicted this was going to be a primetime matchup, and look who's right. Okay, I'm overinflating my ego. I'm sorry, but I just love to be correct half of the time. So, anyway, so I did also hear reports that Joey Bosa is inching closer and closer to the ever so important Bosa Bowl, but I don't know if he'll be back this week. Like, I would have seen reports saying that he is practicing, but I don't know. Like, a groin injury is so tough to come back from in a very short amount of time. So, Larry says, you guys know me. Any chance I get to bash the Raiders, I will. And he just puts laughing emojis when it comes to the Raiders. So, okay, so for the Chargers, in addition to having to deal with the high-powered offense that is the Niners with players such as George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and Jimmy G, they also have to deal with that high-powered defense led by Nick Bosa. And even though they don't have Jason Verrett, they will have Tre'Davious Seward, the former quarterback for the Chiefs. Either way, it is going to be an uphill climb, and for the Chargers, they got to have a good run defense. They have been somewhat impressive. I use the term somewhat very loosely because last week Cordero Patterson came back and he looked as spry as ever. They got gashed against the Cleveland Browns with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Kenneth Walker III gashed them. But in a couple of those games with the Browns and the Falcons, they were able to win those games very narrowly. But for this matchup, this is going to be very tough. But I have stop me if you heard this one. I have the Chargers winning. Now, here's why. Justin Herbert obviously hasn't been playing his best, but he can't get any worse than this. Here's my thing, and this is no offense to Jess. the way the Chargers are going to have to win, they're going to have to win ugly. They're going to have to win like San Diego State's football team has been doing. They're going to have to play strong defensively, and they may have to lean on special teams. Never thought I'd have to say that for the Chargers, though. But they're just going to have to play some sound, solid football, and they're going to have to utilize everyone they've got. Like, it almost got to the point where the Chargers had to play David Moore as their wide receiver. David Moore! David Moore! It's been that bad for the Chargers receiver core. It's bad enough that Joshua Palmer is their wide receiver one. He's good, though. Like, he's not terribly bad, but Joshua Palmer's actually solid. But not having Jalen Guyton for the remainder of the year, not having Mike Williams for a couple more weeks, and not knowing the status of Keenan Allen, which is probably going to be out, it's going to be very tough. And Austin Eckler is probably going to have to be Superman again when it comes to the offense, as well as Justin Herbert. So my thing is, for the Chargers, Joe Lombardi is not one of the better offensive coordinators. Everyone bashes the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but have you seen Joe Lombardi's play calls? They're basically turning Justin Herbert into a check-down magnet, and I feel for him. It's like, I don't want the Chargers to waste Justin Herbert's career like they did with like Dan Fouts and Phillip Rivers, but I just don't want to come to that point. Like, at the end of the year, they got to get rid of Joe Lombardi, please. And Larry says the Chargers are sad. Yes and no. They're sad because they're 5-3, but the fact that they're injured and they're still 5-3 is quite impressive. And then Larry brings up this very good comment. He says, this game should be good. Two very underwhelming teams that should have been good this season going head to head. I think he nailed it right there with that comment. That's kind of the storyline. Both of these teams have kind of been fairly been wrecked by injuries, but for the Niners, they're starting to get more healthy, and I feel for the Chargers, they're not as healthy as the Niners. The Niners, I've been hearing, are as healthy as they were back in week number 1, surprisingly. So this is going to be an uphill climb, but I have the Chargers winning 24-21. I'm sorry to Jess, but I kind of have to go with this one. But here's why I think the Chargers will win. They don't have much to lose. Yes, they could go down the wild card standings, I don't know, or the AFC West standings entirely. But the fact that they're 5-3 and they're facing two very tough teams in the Niners and the Chiefs, they're not going to be favored. The Chargers are indeed underdogs this week and next week. And yes, they are underdogs despite the records showing Chargers being 5-3 and the Niners being 4-4. Like, the Niners 4-4 record is very misguiding. Like, they definitely are better than 4-4. They probably could be 5-3 for all I know. But overall, I have the Chargers winning in narrow fashion. It's going to be an ugly game. Like, they have to win ugly at this point. And them being on primetime 2 weeks in a row, it's going to be quite interesting just because they're going to have a later start, and they're just going to have to adapt to playing, I wouldn't say at a later time. Like, both their games are going to be in California, but they're both going to be against extremely tough and talented teams. So overall, I have the Chargers winning, but it's going to be a narrow fashion. If I'm being real, I would pick the Niners, but I have to go with the Chargers. Something tells me the Chargers are going to find a way to pull out this win. And the Niners, this is probably going to be a useless stat, but they have yet to win against an AFC West opponent. The Broncos game against the Niners, that should have been a win. And then the Chiefs game, I don't want to say this too negatively, but they're the Chiefs. Like, they're not going to roll over that easily, and they kind of proved that. So for the Chargers, not too much pressure on them. They're underdogs. They're 5-3, and they're decimated to high heaven. But for them, it's like they're playing with house money here. And a win, however, would probably give the Chargers their best win in the Brandon Staley era. I mean, they have the Chiefs win from last year, but that was kind of iffy, back and forth action. They were up early, Chiefs came alive, and they kind of got a little bit bailed out by a interesting pass interference call, and they almost whiffed the game because they gave Patrick Mahomes the ball back. But overall, this would probably be their biggest win this season because they don't have any big-time wins this season. Like, you look at the Chargers' wins, 3-point win against the Falcons, not that great. 3-point win over the Broncos in OT, not that great. 2-point win over the Browns on the road, I guess it's okay, considering they got gashed by Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. 10-point win over the Texans. Should have won by more because they were up like 21, and they nearly let the Texans come back. And then a 5-point win over the Raiders. Now, if the Raiders were better than they were this year, and Larry, I'm sorry I have to say this, if the Raiders were better than their record indicated, I would have said that's a good win, but it's looking like that win is not looking so great by the week, just because the Raiders lost to the Jags, unfortunately, and yeah, it's not looking too hot for Raiders fans. But back to the Chargers. Oh, they kind of need a big-time win this week, if not next week. They're playing on national TV, so the spotlight is on them, and this is kind of their moment. This is their moment to shine, and this is their moment to make a statement to the entire NFL that they still can live up to the expectations, and they do deserve to be over 500. And for them, it's just all about them playing a full 4 quarters and just putting all phases of football together. They have to do so, because if they don't, then it just gets tougher and tougher. And with these two primetime matchups against two very talented opponents, it's just not going to get easier. It'll start to lighten up a little bit when they play the Cardinals and the Raiders, but it's not going to get anything. And this is no offense to the Cardinals or Raiders, just because nothing is guaranteed, but they're basically... It's basically the point of no return. They've got some talented opponents on the horizon, and heaven knows they cannot go to Week 18 just clinging on to a playoff spot, because Week 18 they're playing the Broncos, and heaven knows they have had horrible luck at Mile High Stadium. So we'll see what happens with the Chargers going forward. And Larry says the Raiders are a glorified JV team. Well, that's an insult to JV teams all around the world that are glorified. But I digress. All right. Niners Jess makes a good comment right here. She says the Rams are done. That's perfect segue to go into the Rams. So the Rams wet the bed. They poo-pooed the bed. They did everything bad to the bed. No, Angela, I'm not trying to be mean to the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals, what are they, 3-6? They are 3-6, but I feel they're much better than 3-6, especially with D-Hop back. Like, we'll see what happens with them going forward. But anyway, to the Rams, yeah, they wet the bed when it came to the Bucs, because in the past with Tom Brady, the Rams have had the Bucs number with Tom Brady as the Bucs quarterback. But this past week, they wound up blowing it. It's like the defense played in prevent mode on the final drive of the Bucs, and their offense was just so bad, dude. It was bad. So where do the Rams go from here? The Rams have been bad because their O-line is not good. Their O-line has been decimated. They're one-dimensional. They're not involving Allen Robinson. It's just Cooper Kupp. They have no run game. Matt Stafford is becoming a bigger check-down magnet than Justin Herbert is. And Sean McVay is not living up to his glorified coaching tenure as he was a Super Bowl coach from last season. So I really hope I hope the Rams can get it together, but on paper, it just looks so tough for me. It's tough for me to, be encouraged by them to possibly get it done. They're slipping further and further back of the NFC West. The good news is for the Rams, and Angela, forgive me for saying this, they're playing the Cardinals this week, and for the Cardinals, they have not had the season they've wanted. Yes, it's because they haven't had DeAndre Hopkins. No, it's not fully because of that. They have an incompetent coach of their own in Cliff Kingsbury, the former or soon to have been USC football coach, but then he ducked out because he wanted to be the Cardinals coach. Anyway, for the Rams, they just have to get to Kyler Murray. Like, if they get to Kyler Murray, then it's probably going... I wouldn't say they're going to win easily, but it should be a little bit more of a manageable game. The problem is for the Rams, however, is that Matthew Stafford is in concussion protocol, and that is a red flag right there, that this could be a sign of they're either going to have to go with Bryce Perkins, the 25-year-old quarterback who is a 2-year man out of Virginia, or they're going to go with John Wolford, who is a 3-year quarterback out of Wake Forest, who's only 27. This is going to be quite worrisome if the Rams can't go with Matthew Stafford. I'm very terrified. I'm honestly very terrified for the Rams this week. I mean, I feel they're going to get it done against the Cardinals, but the Cardinals do have some pop within their offense. Like, Kyler Murray is electric when he has time in the pocket and he sees a lot of terrain going forward, where he could just scramble. DeAndre Hopkins is a phenomenal wide receiver. Zach Ertz is a great tight end. Okay, maybe great is a little bit of a extreme word to use, but he's borderline of top 10. Maybe like top 12. And then, obviously, losing Marquise Hollywood Brown hurts them. Their run game has been a merry-go-round with Eno Benjamin and James Conner, though Conner was back for the Cardinals last week. But for the Cardinals, in order to beat the Cardinals, the Rams just have to play smart football. And they have to make sure Kyler Murray just gets pressurized each and every play. Like, the Rams have a good defense. Aaron Donald is phenomenal, but he can't carry the load all by himself. They have to have other players step up. Obviously, I don't think they have Leonard Floyd back from injury. Jalen Ramsey has kind of been a little bit of I wouldn't say a letdown, but he's kind of been not that great this season. But overall for the Rams, they have to get it done this week. If they lose to the Cardinals, their playoff hopes are officially done. We could stick a fork in them because the Rams are well done. Put some A1 barbecue sauce on them lamb chops. Angela says, a running back merry-go-round with horses that keep following off the up and down pole. Angela's referring to my running back merry-go-round reference. But for the Rams and the Cardinals, this one's going to be ugly. This one's going to be just as ugly as Niners-Chargers. But I got to go with the Rams winning 24-17. It's not going to be easy. I feel it's going to be like 10-10 at halftime, and then the Rams are going to try to put it together. Hence the word try. I feel they got to put it together this week. If they can't put it together this week, it's officially done. Hasta la vista. Once again, stick a fork in them, because looking at the Rams schedule, it doesn't really get much easy for them. I mean, they have the Saints, but the Saints are kind of an anomaly, especially with all their injuries and losing Michael Thomas. Like, the Saints might be winnable, but looking at the and so is the Raiders, and maybe the Packers. Okay, maybe the Rams schedule isn't all that bad, but the Saints winning at New Orleans is going to be tough. Winning at Kansas City, very tough. Winning at Seattle, or winning at home against Seattle, going to be tougher than it once originally was seen. Winning against the Raiders, unless Raider Nation is going to boycott not going to games, that could still be somewhat tough, especially if Ramsey gets cooked by Devontae Adams. The Packers, okay, my thing for the Rams versus the Packers, on paper, it looks like the Rams could win, but they struggle at Lambeau Field. And remember, Matthew Stafford has little to no answer against the Green Bay Packers. Remember, he was a former Detroit Lion. And then I don't know how the Rams are going to handle that Broncos defense. And then Rams-Chargers, I feel that, here's my thing. I'll save that for later. But then they close out the season at Seattle. That could be tough considering Seattle is vying for the division. But let me just go up to Rams-Chargers real quick. So Rams-Chargers, I'm fearing that matchup could be flexed out of primetime. If the Chargers and Rams aren't like in contention for a playoff spot, because let's say the Chargers are still vying for playoff spot, like they're like inching closer and closer. If not, they've clinched a spot in the playoffs, and then the Rams have just fallen off the wagon and they're like eliminated from playoff contention. I feel that matchup will get flexed out of primetime because no one wants to see two teams with no fan bases facing off against one another on primetime, with one team not even coming close to the playoffs, and then the other team basically nearing the playoff hunt, or nearing the end of the playoff hunt. But and that's not guaranteed. Like, the Chargers could veer off the train tracks of the playoff road, as well as the Rams, and that would 100% get flexed out of primetime. But for the Rams, they got to take it one game at a time, and it starts this week against the Cardinals. Like I said, if they can't win this week, it's over for them. Like, they've had the Cardinals number for heaven knows how long. And Angela makes a funny joke. She says, "We will save a seat on the couch for you, Rams." At least she didn't use the other terminology for the Rams, the lamb chops. But like I said, if the Rams can't win this week against the Cardinals, stick a fork in the lamb chops because they are done. Well done. Put some A1 steak on them lamb chops and serve it to me on the dinner table. But they got to get it done this week. And I have the Rams winning 24-17. Won't be easy, but I feel they have what it takes. All right, so that's going to do it for Rams and Chargers. Jumping over to some NCAA football, there's the lamb chops. So for USC, we all thought that the Rams and Chargers were having injury problems. Welcome to USC's world. They have had injury. They've been decimated by injuries. No Jordan Addison, no Corey Foreman, no Mario Williams. Yet the USC is still in the top 10 of the college football committee, and they're 6-1, and they're still vying for a Pac-12 championship. They did narrowly escape against Cal 41-35, which really shakes my head. And I understand USC is decimated with injuries, but this is Cal we're talking about. This is a Cal without Chase Garbers. Chase Garbers is officially in the NFL, and he is the backup quarterback for the Raiders. Shout out to Chase Garbers and CDM football. Anyway, but USC, they got to get healthy ASAP. They have to get healthy. God bless Caleb Williams, though. That dude is throwing to receivers I've never even heard of. Like, I haven't even heard of this Michael Jackson III guy. I was like, who? And he's only a sophomore wide receiver. I have never even heard of a majority of these receivers outside of Addison and Mario Williams. But it's a miracle that USC is 8-1. They are going bowling, which makes me happy. But that Cal game was just so ugly, dude. It's like, how are you only going to win by 6 against Cal? Ugh. At home, mind you. So, and on your homecoming. Why didn't they have Rice as their homecoming? Like, why did you have to pick Cal of all teams? Why couldn't you have picked Colorado? Like, oh wait, Colorado. Yeah, why did you pick Colorado, dude? Like, Colorado has been a complete hot mess. Speaking of which, Colorado, USC plays them tonight. Here's my thing for USC. They should beat Colorado. Just like the Rams having the Cardinals number, USC has Colorado's number in college football. That is my thing. I don't think USC football has lost to Colorado in its tenure, let alone in the Pac-12. But if USC has to be careful here. This could, hence the word could, be a trap game for the Trojans. Because next week they've got big, bad, scary UCLA at the Rose Bowl. But for USC, they have to get it done this week against Colorado. Friday games are so weird, dude, just because sometimes some of the weirdest stuff happens. Maybe there's like rain. I don't think it's going to rain tonight. And USC, they just have to get it done. Like, strike while the iron's hot. I don't care if you're throwing it to Michael Jackson III. I don't care if you're down to your third-string defenders. You have to get it done. Please get the job done, USC. Because if you don't get the job done tonight, your Pac-12 hopes are pretty much going to be shot down and crash landing. Because in the Pac-12, it's UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Utah. Those are your four. That's the four-headed monster. Going to eventually be taken down to two. Heaven knows who's going to be left standing. But just because next week's game between UCLA and USC, that's going to be big time right there. Just because whoever wins pretty much has the inside track of finishing pretty much in the top two of the Pac-12. Just because currently Oregon is undefeated, UCLA or USC is a half game ahead of UCLA, despite that one loss to Utah. And then UCLA still has to play Cal, which they should win against. And then Utah, Oregon faces each other next week, which that's going to have a lot of stakes on the line. But they have to get past Stanford this week, which they should, just because they don't have E.J. Smith. But anyway. And then also Utah has Colorado. So for USC, they have to get the job done against the worst team in the Pac-12. If they cannot, then I will be sick to my stomach. We will boycott this next week's game. We will just have USC forfeit and then just have them move on to Notre Dame. You'll probably see riots. You'll probably see USC fans crying and screaming and maybe streaking. That will probably happen if they win, though. But anyway, yeah, USC, they're 34-point favorites against Colorado. I have this strange feeling USC is not going to cover. But I have them winning 45-20. That's a little bit respectable, right? And Larry says, I don't want SC to lose to UCLA. I don't want that either for purposes of me being a USC fan. And that's a perfect segue to go into UCLA, which they had an ugly win against Arizona State. It almost got to the point where Arizona State nearly made a comeback, and we did not see any bit of Zach Charbonnet. Fortunately for UCLA, they had Casimir Allen, who managed to revert himself from wide receiver to running back. So, and then DTR, I would say he didn't do too much. He had two passing touchdowns, but he wasn't explosive as he was in previous weeks. But he'd still got the job done. Like, this might have been his ugliest game as a UCLA Bruin, but if that's the case, he got the ugly game out of the way. Now for UCLA, they have to contend with Arizona, which, yeah. I'm sorry, Angela. She says, Sun Devils, we suck too. I wanted Arizona State to come back against UCLA and cause some chaos. I was like, if UCLA loses to Arizona State, I'm not going to hear the end of it from Angela. So, but unfortunately, UCLA had this thing called plot armor, and they managed to win. So UCLA is home against Arizona tomorrow. UCLA is a 20-point favorite. The thing about Arizona is they have some young key pieces, and this is kind of Arizona's Super Bowl, because if they lose, they're not going bowling. If they win, their bowling chances still have a shot, though it is going to be a thin shot. So for UCLA, same with USC, they can't overlook Arizona, just because Arizona has some young key pieces like Tataroa McMillan, or as many people call him, T-Mac. So, again, this is a young Arizona team, but Arizona's playing with house money. They've got nothing to lose except their bowl game opportunities, but many people didn't even have them bowling this year. So, for UCLA, they are getting the job done this week. They're 20-point favorites. They are going to cover. Unlike USC, I think they covered this week. I have them winning 38-13. That sounds about respectable as it gets. It's going to be a very narrow cover, but I think that UCLA wins, and then they set up the big showdown against USC next week, and it's going to be a barn burner. There might be haymakers thrown, but I think it's going to be UCLA and USC winning. So that's that for USC and UCLA. I have to mention San Diego State, and they won in ugly fashion last week, as they narrowly beat UNLV 14-10. Like I've been saying the past few weeks, this is the new norm for San Diego State. They have had to basically rely on their defense to carry them. Their offense is practically non-existent, and they've also had to rely on game-winning field goals. Now, the week before, I never talked about this because I had the week off last week. The week before, San Diego State played their oil can rivalry game against Fresno State, and they managed to lose 32-28. Now, I'm not mad at San Diego State losing, but how they lost really grinds my gears. So, San Diego State, they're up 11 points following the end of the third quarter, and it looks like San Diego State is going to win, and it's like, okay, San Diego State has got this. They can't possibly screw this up. And they're just playing some great defense all around. They're playing great defense for the first 14 minutes of the fourth quarter. And it's like, and eventually, notice how I said the word first 14 minutes of the fourth quarter. The last minute and change, San Diego State allows a touchdown because Jake Haener is fun times. So I don't know how. I really don't know how San Diego State managed to foul this one up. But after the touchdown, Fresno State decided to go for an onside kick. And, by the way, Fresno State also went for two, and they got it. So after that, Fresno State decided to onside kick. And unfortunately, Fresno State recovered. Okay, but it's like about a minute left. They can't possibly screw this one up. Was dead wrong. Fresno State, on the first play at the San Diego State 37, Jake Haener completed a touchdown to Nico Remigio, and it was just one play. San Diego State gave up a touchdown on the first play after they couldn't recover the onside kick. Fresno State eventually wound up winning, as basically San Diego State threw an interception, and that was that. Are we kidding me, San Diego State? How do you lose an 11-point lead with 1 minute and change left? What were you doing? Are you that dense to go into prevent defense? What on earth was that? You can't. No. San Diego State, I am disappointed in you. The one game where your offense shows up against Fresno State in the biggest game, which could have gotten you into that Mountain West Conference championship, you wind up blowing it. You blew it against Fresno State. I am dissatisfied. I am disgusted. I am sick to my stomach. San Diego State, oh my God. It's like, how do you lose that game? They had that game in their fingertips. All they just needed to do was recover the onside kick, or at least prevent the touchdown. How do you play 14 minutes of great, sound, solid defense against a solid Fresno State team, and then you just blow it in the last minute? This is peak San Diego sports right here. It sickened me when I saw this. It's like, how do you lose? And now, I thought it was just going to be a game-winning drive with both teams going back and forth. But they, first of all, didn't recover the onside kick. Second of all, on the first play, it gave San Diego State, or Fresno State, really good field position, and then it was a touchdown pass. It's like, I don't know what to say about San Diego State. I just can't believe this. And this is the same San Diego State team that is going to be scheduling Oklahoma, I think, next year and then the following 2 years. If this is how they're going to be playing against Fresno State, I'm scared to find out what they're going to do against Oklahoma. Just because Oklahoma is still going to have themselves a a solid recruiting class despite Lincoln Riley going over to USC. But it's like, oh, USC or San Diego State. It's like every San Diego State fan was so miffed and PO'd. Some were even calling for Brady Hoke's for Brady Hoke to be fired. And this is not what Rocky Long stepped down for. Rocky Long did not retire or step down for this madness. Brady Hoke, I'm disappointed in you and your team. It's like the one time the San Diego State offense comes to life, they wind up blowing it defensively, especially in that final minute. Like, it just sickens me. It's okay to lose in close fashion if it's like a back-and-forth affair, but please don't lose because your team can't recover an onside kick, let alone your team gives up a touchdown on the first play of the drive following the onside kick. It's like they made Jake Haener look like a Heisman nominee. I'm sorry, but it is the darn truth. And San Diego State, this is peak San Diego State loss right here. It really, really, really is. Like, nobody can argue this. Nobody can defend this loss from San Diego State. You just can't. I mean, God bless Jalen Maiden for all that he did. Like, the dude had 291 passing yards. You can't expect anything from that. Problem was that their running game was non-existent, though Maiden actually had 2 rushing touchdowns. But again, this is the scenario of the offense finally came to life for San Diego State because their offense sure as heck hasn't been existent throughout a majority of the season. Like, this was the most points that San Diego State has put up since their second game against Idaho State, but that doesn't really count because that's FCS. Of course they're going to win that one. And then I guess they also put up 23 against Nevada, but oh God. It's just so disappointing for San Diego State. Like, that game wound up, I think that game basically does it. That game punches their championship, their Mountain West Conference championship dreams down the toilet. As the only way San Diego State wins or makes it to the championship is they win out and then Fresno State loses. And looking at Fresno State's schedule, they've got UNLV, Nevada, and Wyoming. The Wyoming game looks interesting that they could possibly lose that one, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I mean, I would, as much as I'd like to see Fresno State blow it the rest of the way, San Diego State, even if San Diego State makes it to the Mountain West Conference Championship, it would probably play Boise State, and Boise State blew the doors off them after they were down 14-0. So for San Diego State, they play San Jose State, which, if San Diego State loses this one, the Mountain West Conference Championship is officially over. It's done, kaput, put it to bed. All they could pretty much do is go bowling. But if San Diego State does win, they will go bowling. They will be bowl game eligible, though I don't know what bowl game they're going to be in. They're probably going to be in the Raiders-Browns toilet bowl. Sorry, Larry. But overall, for San Diego State, I have them winning yet again. I know this is going to sound crazy. I know San Jose State is 6-2, but I have San Diego State winning 17-14. This is going to be my new norm score from now on, unless, of course, San Diego State plays an actual opponent that is more offensive inept than them. Probably next week, by the way. So I got San Diego State winning 17-14. I think they're going to win on they're going to win off of a game-winning field goal. I think what's going to happen is both teams are going to be defensive and they're going to make stops. There's going to only be 4 touchdowns scored, 2 by each team. And then San Diego State is going to somehow find a way to get into field goal range, and then their kicker, Browning, is going to kick a game-winning field goal, and then San Diego State stuns San Jose State, and then everyone is going to start praising Brady Hoke, and he's going to make him think that he is the new Ed Ogeron, or anything of that sort. Either way, and then everyone is going to start writing their apology letters and deleting their tweets about firing Brady Hoke, but I don't know, man. I just, it's going to be tough. But I got San Diego State winning tonight or tomorrow. Next week they have a short week as they've got New Mexico next Friday. And heaven knows what time that's going to be at. It might be at 8 p.m. If that's the case, then it's going to be Mountain West after dark. And anything can happen. And then San Diego State doesn't even have guaranteed wins. Air Force is still pretty good as well. And San Jose State is definitely good. And heaven knows what New Mexico has in store for us, but we'll see what San Diego State does. I feel they're probably going to poo-poo the bed, and they're going to let San Diego State fans down like most of the time. So that is that for San Diego State, USC, and UCLA. Jumping over to San Diego, they play Davidson this Saturday. No, not Davidson Crooks. They play Davidson. As San Diego lost a heartbreaker to Butler. Though Butler is good. I can't get too angry at this loss. I know San Diego blew a 10-point lead, but they weren't favored to beat. They were not favored to beat Butler. Butler came in 6-2. San Diego was like 3-4. It's like I can't get too mad at San Diego. Especially, but their offense was more inept than San Diego State's. But honestly, good effort from San Diego. Unfortunately, Butler just got the better of them, and it sucks because San Diego is having that type of year, and they have a chance to. Their only chance to salvage a 500 record is if they beat Davidson, and then they also beat Morehead State, which is actually going to be on ESPN3, by the way, but. For Davidson, this is going to be a very tough matchup. Davidson is actually 7-2, and they're actually right behind St. Thomas of Minnesota in the Pioneer Football League, which is the conference that San Diego plays in. So for San Diego to have any hope of finishing 500, they're going to have to play a complete full course against Davidson. If they beat Davidson, then they should be a shoo-in to beat Morehead State, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Angel says, can we create an IESR Bowl where two terrible teams play, then we make fun of them on air? Oh, wait, I do that all the time when I talk about my Cardinals, and Larry does that with his Raiders. Yeah, we kind of already had that in the NFL back in week 2. But I digress. And then, unfortunately for Cal Poly, I'm fairly certain their season is not... Their season is no better than San Diego's season. At least San Diego had some up-and-up wins, but unfortunately for Cal Poly, they got the doors blown off by Montana, 57-0. And then the week before, they lost to UC Davis, 59-17. The Big West Conference is going to have a field day with that one. So Cal Poly goes into the frying pan with one Montana team and out of the fire from one Montana team and into the frying pan with another as they take on Montana State this tomorrow. Montana State, FYI, is 8-1, so if anyone has Cal Poly winning this one, you might want to rethink that bet. But Cal Poly, they're having a atrocious year. It was even more atrocious when they lost to Idaho State. Shout out to Calvin Pitcher, by the way. But Cal Poly's Super Bowl was when they beat San Diego after they rallied back from that little deficit. But that's peak San Diego right there. Like I said, that is peak San Diego sports right there. It's not as bad as San Diego State's blowing of the game against Fresno State, but it's fairly bad. It's bad, man. All right, but that's pretty much going to do it for some NCAA college football talk. Let's go to some NCAA men's basketball I got a bone to pick with USC. So, on my vacation last week, the NCAA men's basketball season began, and I was happy because I get to finally... I no longer have to deal with the Lakers torturing me, and maybe the Clippers. I finally get to see USC do their thing because everyone was saying they are borderline a good team and they are going to do great things. They should be ranked in the top 25. Monday was basically their glory day as they opened up at the Galen Center against Florida Gulf Coast. USC wound up losing by 13. Oh, USC, I was so disappointed by this. I'm like, wait a minute. Florida Gulf Coast? You mean the Florida Gulf Coast team that waltzed their way into an NCAA tournament run that one season? Ooh, I was so disappointed with this loss. Florida Gulf Coast won 74-61 at the Galen Center. Now, if it was at Florida Gulf Coast, I would have understood, but you lost your season opener at home. It's like, ew, USC. Just ew, dude. How do you lose? Every USC fan was in a riot, and UCLA fans were just loving it. I have never seen so much trolling after one loss from a USC men's basketball team. I was so disappointed, and what was even worse is I have an even bigger bone to pick with USC men's hoops, is because I actually attended the USC women's volleyball match against Stanford on Wednesday. That was originally scheduled to be on Thursday, and since USC's men's basketball team played on Thursday, they got the top priority to pushing back USC women's volleyball to Wednesday, which made my plans go a complete 360. And then Thursday, basically, I didn't have too many plans. It would have been perfect, but freaking USC men's basketball decided to have their little Pac-12 SWAC game against Alabama State. Yes, USC managed to win that one, 96-58, but I don't care. I dislike you, USC. You pushed the women's volleyball match that I was going to attend on Thursday back to a Wednesday. Fortunately, I was able to make it, but I was late getting there. But I'm happy USC won, but why did you have to schedule Alabama State at your gymnasium? Why? Why couldn't you have just pushed... Why couldn't you have played on Wednesday? Like, you get more days off, and you lost to Florida Gulf Coast. You don't deserve to have top priority over a team that's actually doing well at Galen Center, let alone its season. Though USC's women's volleyball team unfortunately whiffed a 2-0 lead against Stanford this past Wednesday. I'm going to talk about that on set point, though. But for USC men's hoops, they were this close to being my dum-dum of the week. But I guess money talks because everyone loves men's basketball over women's volleyball, which breaks my heart as a volleyball enthusiast. But hey, good job, USC. I'm happy for you. I sound so dry saying that, but I'm sick to my stomach for them. You lose to Florida Gulf Coast. I mean, I guess it's better than Cal losing to UC Davis, but still. Anyway, we're only going to go over USC, UCLA, and San Diego State. As UCLA beat Sacramento State on Monday, 76-50. There was a point where Sacramento State was only down 15. Notice the word only down. It was not really close, as UCLA had this one from the get-go, and yeah. This was not surprising at all. Sacramento State was no match for UCLA, as UCLA plays Long Beach State tonight at Pauley Pavilion. What I will never understand is this. Why does Long Beach State never get a home game against UCLA? Why? Why does UCLA have to have every game at home against Long Beach State? In all my years of seeing UCLA and Long Beach State facing one another, UCLA always is the home team, and Long Beach State never plays UCLA at the Pyramid. I will never understand that. Gosh dang UCLA. Larry says home cooking. Yeah, it probably is home cooking. UCLA has a lot of expectations though this season, as they're number 8 in the first AP poll, and they're facing some darn good competition. They've got Illinois later on in the month of November. They've got Oregon early in December and a little bit of Pac-12 play. They've got Kentucky in the middle of December, and they got a lot of pressure on them. But hey, pressure makes diamonds shine even brighter, from what I was told. And I'm confident that UCLA could have a big season. Do I think they can go all the way? That depends. They got a lot of monsters to take down, such as Duke and North Carolina and Gonzaga and this Kentucky team. It's going to be quite the interesting season for UCLA. I feel they have what it takes, but time will tell. Just because sometimes the spotlight just shines too much bright on a certain team. Look at USC from last year. They were number 4 in the nation, and then they wound up losing to Stanford, though the reffing was complete dog water, but I digress on that. So that's basically that for USC and UCLA in terms of sounds like rhymes with in terms of men's basketball. I guess I should also make note that UC Riverside lost to Colorado. Now that we're talking about Pac-12 play, something else I will also note is that, Larry, I'm sorry to do this to you, but Long Beach State beat California Baptist in their season opener. I was very surprised to see California Baptist winning. Remember, it's California Baptist, or CBU, not Cal Baptist. Nobody is calling California Baptist Cal Baptist, but I digress on that. But Long Beach State did win their season opener at California Baptist. I was quite surprised, to say the least. The fact that they won by a significant chunk, it makes me wonder what really happened. I thought they were better. I thought California Baptist was better than that. But I guess it is what it is, as California Baptist will look to bounce back as they play NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, tonight. Something I actually saw on Twitter was that they actually were the top 3 in top attended NCAA Division I games in California on opening night. So number 10 was San Francisco with 1,730. Number 9, surprisingly enough, was USC with 2,355. Ugh. All that just to have only 2,355 fans? Gross, USC. Then UC Irvine was number 8 with 3,046. Cal Berkeley was 7th with 3,128. St. Mary's was 6th with 3,219. Stanford was 5th with 3,380. Fresno State was 4th with 3,675. California Baptist, or CBU, was 3rd with 4,466. UCLA was 2nd with 6,096. And then number 1 in top attended NCAA Division I games in California on college basketball opening night is, can we get a drum roll, please? San Diego State, which had a whopping 11,934. That is a lot of attendance for San Diego State. Bravo, San Diego State, bravo. They actually are number 19 to start out the college AP polls, and for good reason too, as, man, how'd you get 11,000? But but now it makes sense, just because they played Cal State Fullerton and they just blew the doors off them 80-57. Okay, blowing the doors off them sounds a little harsh, just because Fullerton is from the Big West and it's not as strong as like the Pac-12 or any of that sort, just because it's a non-Power 5 conference. But for San Diego State, they play BYU tonight, and then they've got Stanford later on, and they've got Ohio State. Now, I'm not sure if Ohio State is very, 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 very good as they were the past few years, but it's always good to welcome in some Big Ten conference teams. They've also got UC Irvine to close out the month of November. So, for San Diego State, it's going to be, I want to see them actually have success. As we all know, they had that infamous 26-point lead blown, and they also were one and done in the NCAA tournament, losing by 3. But I think San Diego State has potential this year. I think they could be something special. And just to close, I know I said I was only going to talk about San Diego State, USC, and UCLA, but I might as well throw in that Oh, actually, I'll save that for later. I'll save that for later. I'll save that for later. But we're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break just to let my voice catch up. When we come back, we're going to talk some MLS as LAFC won the MLS Cup, and then we'll talk some Lakers and Clippers, and then we've got the Dum Dum of the Week. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Chi-Town Weekly with Adam Kornick every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Also check out Let's Whine About DMV Sports with Mike Pat every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. We have a lot of great shows here dedicated to all things sports. We have shows dedicated to volleyball, such as Set Point, football, college football, basketball, the San Francisco 49ers, the list goes on and on. And later on today, we will have the Carolina Cast with John Felipe going live at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. There we go. All right, now let's get on into the second half of the show. So we have to address the biggest elephant in the room, the MLS, with LAFC defeating the Philadelphia Union in penalty kicks 3-0. So this was quite the doozy of a matchup right here. We had LAFC scoring first as Kellen Acosta scored in the 27th minute off of a penalty kick. So it's 1-0, as that was the only score in the first half. So it's looking like LAFC has the inside track, and all they just gotta do is keep their foot on the gas pedal. They didn't get the memo because they wound up giving up a penalty kick to Daniel Gazdag in the 59th minute. So it's 1-1, but LAFC responds as Jesus Murillo scores in the 83rd minute. LAFC is back up 2-1, but then 3 minutes later, Jack Elliott manages to, little over 2 minutes later, Jack Elliott scores for the Union as it is 2-2, and apparently the full 90 minutes wasn't enough, so they added a little bit more time. Was not enough. They went into overtime. That wasn't enough. Or actually, the first overtime, that wasn't enough. And then after the first overtime period, this was the crazy part. So LAFC's goalie unfortunately got hurt as Maxime Crepau got hurt. He got hurt, but then he also got red carded as well. So that was just basically double jeopardy. And fortunately for the Philadelphia Union, I think their penalty kick got blocked or it missed entirely. But either way, it went into another overtime period as Jack Elliott managed to kick the I wouldn't say go-ahead goal, but he managed to boot in a goal at the 124th minute in the second overtime period. And I'm just thinking, oh God, LAFC is lost. They're not going to win this one. They just don't have enough gas in the tank. They're down to their backup goalie. It's over. But little did I forget, LAFC got the heaven sent from the soccer gods. Gareth Bale. That dude booted in the game-tying goal 4 minutes after Elliott scored his goal for the Union, as it was tied 3-3, and I was thinking, okay, this one, I predicted that this one was going to go to penalty kicks. I did not know how MLS does it. I thought it was basically golden goal, but I guess you play until the final minutes in overtime. But that's just my lack of knowledge of the MLS. I thought it was basically whenever it's overtime, you just play until you get the golden goal. So my bad. So then it went into penalty kicks, and unfortunately for Philadelphia, I'm just going to say this. Penalty anything is the worst way to win or lose a game. Like, it's just heartbreaking. But for LAFC, they managed to win on penalty kicks, as I don't know who the backup goalie was for LAFC, but he came up clutch. I was very impressed, as the first round, both teams missed. The second round, Dennis Buyanga scored. Then Ryan Hollingshed scored. So it was 2-0 LAFC. It actually went LAFC, then Philadelphia, then LAFC, then Philadelphia. Back and forth pattern. And then Eli Sanchez managed to boot in the go-ahead goal in penalty kicks, and LAFC managed to win the MLS Cup, which, good for LAFC. I basically said this to one of my buddies who's a soccer fan. If LAFC fails to win this game, they deserve to continue to be irrelevant in the MLS world and the world of Los Angeles sports, or SoCal sports. They managed to win their first ever MLS Cup, and bravo to LAFC. It only took them having a fully loaded roster, and that's not a dig toward them, but their roster was so loaded, and this was against the best team in the Eastern Conference. This was the number one seed from the East taking on the number one seed in the West, and it was an instant classic. I feel this game should be the MLS game of the century. I feel it's game of the century right here, if not game of the decade. And there was something very funny that went around. So I have a few friends that are from Northern California that like to troll. There's this one follower of mine who's a Niners fan, who's a Warriors fan. He trolled very, very hard he trolls very hard when it comes to like Southern California sports, like the Lakers and the Dodgers and the Rams, I guess. But he was like, apparently, like most other people, I did not know of LAFC winning this football championship like most other people. And I just want to respond to him and say, well, it's better than the San Jose Quakes, but I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be I didn't want to stir the pot. And also, I can't talk back to him like that, especially since I'm a Galaxy fan. I'm mainly a LA Galaxy guy, but I will stand LAFC. So, good job to LAFC. Galaxy fans are probably moaning and groaning and probably saying fire Klein right now, but I got to tip my hat to LAFC. They finally did it. They're basically the Ash Ketchum of the MLS. After losing countless number of times in the playoffs and countless numbers of times in this regular season, which disallowed them to making the playoffs, they finally stand at top, just like Ash Ketchum did. I know I had to veer off to Pokemon, but that's kind of the perfect resemblance for LAFC. So that's pretty much that for the MLS season. So once again, Southern California has another champion. I don't care if people don't know what the MLS is. This is a significant championship. Like, I knew what the MLS was, not only because we used to have a soccer show on this station, but because of the LA Galaxy. And even though LAFC is kind of the rival of the Galaxy, we gotta give them kudos. You can't suck forever. And what's funny is that LAFC won a championship sooner than the Clippers did, which is kind of funny. I'm sorry to Clippers fans. I don't mean to joke like that, but it's kind of the truth. I guess I should throw the Chargers in there as well, but they won an NFL championship back in 1961. That counts for something, right? Anyway, so that's that for the MLS. Great season from LAFC and the LA Galaxy. The Galaxy played LAFC super close in that playoff matchup. If LAFC blew out Philadelphia, I would have said technically the Galaxy might have been able to win the MLS Cup, but they don't have good goaltending. But I digress. So that is that for the MLS for the remainder of the season. Jumping over to the NBA, it's been tough sledding for the Lakers, and I hope USC men's hoops can get it together. I hope they go on a mega uber winning streak to the point where I can basically forget about the Lakers and focus more on USC. I'm more of a USC guy, by the way. So Wednesday, the Lakers unfortunately lost to the Clippers yet again, 114-101, and the Clippers' biggest fan, Marcellus Wiley, decided to be a troll and basically, I'll play you the video clip a little bit later, but the Clippers, he said, ain't nothing changed, and I basically quote tweeted that and said, he ain't lying though. And Marcellus Wiley does have the right to troll because I want to say this is like the 9th or 10th straight loss to the Clippers for the Lakers. Like, it's so disgusting, dude. They also lost to the Utah Jazz on Monday, and they also lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I actually was channel surfing in my cabin on the cruise, and I saw the Lakers and the Cavs. I'm like, gosh dang it, why'd this game have to come up? Thanks, cruise line. And then also the Lakers lost to the Jazz the previous Friday, last Friday. But overall for the Lakers, it's been tough sledding. LeBron also has another injury. I think it's to his foot. It's not been a good season for the Lakers as they play the Sacramento Kings tonight. They also have the Brooklyn Nets. I almost said the New Jersey Nets. The Brooklyn Nets, which has been a complete, I wouldn't say a dumpster fire, but they have not been great this year, especially with the turmoil they've been in. And then next week they will remain at home in the Staples Center against the Detroit Pistons. So overall for the Lakers, they make me sick to my stomach, dude. It's so bad. They're so bad. They are dead last in the Pacific Division, and they are the second worst team in the NBA ahead of the Houston Rockets. They're so bad, it's like even teams like the Charlotte Hornets, the Detroit Pistons, and the Orlando Magic are better than them. Is the season over yet? Anyway, over to the Clippers. The Clippers have had a little bit more success, and they're starting to get it together as, like I said, they beat the Lakers this past Wednesday. They actually got to play the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think it was like in the span of 2 weeks. On Monday, they narrowly escaped the Cleveland Cavaliers, 119-117. The previous day, they lost to the Utah Jazz 110-102. They beat the Spurs this past Friday 113-106. They also beat the Rockets 109-101, which, thank goodness they did, because you can't lose to the Rockets. They also beat the Rockets in narrow fashion on Halloween 95-93. But overall, the Clippers, they haven't had Kawhi Leonard again, but they're 7-5. It's still very early in the season, but I hope the Clippers don't have to deal with any more injuries. Like, the Clippers cannot afford too many injuries to their team. At least Paul George is healthy. That's the good thing. Anyway, jumping over to the Clippers looking ahead. They have the Brooklyn Nets tomorrow at... did I say the Staples Center? Oh, God, I meant the Crypto.com arena. If I said Staples Center in the past, I'm sorry. I forgot it's Crypto.com arena. I'm still getting used to that. So, Clippers play the Nets at the Crypto.com arena on Saturday. Then they've got the Houston Rockets in Houston on Monday. Then they've got the Dallas Mavericks the day after on Tuesday. They've got the Texas two-step. I wish they had the San Antonio Spurs, in their next game following the Mavericks, but unfortunately they don't, as they have the Detroit Pistons on Thursday. And then they have the San Antonio Spurs on Saturday, but unfortunately it's not the Texas trio. They unfortunately have to have the Texas two-step with Houston and Dallas. Gosh dang it, an NBA schedule. So for the Clippers, they're having a good success. Paul George looks good. Terrence Mann looks good. I forget the one guy's name who came in from Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson also looks good. John Wall, I guess, is okay, but Kawhi is kind of my biggest concern. The dude has not been a whole lot of healthy this past season. Last year he missed all of the season due to the ACL tear that he had, the small but now big ACL tear he had in the postseason the previous year, where the Clippers advanced to the Western Conference Finals. So it's been tough sledding for the Clippers, but they're trying to be relevant, because unfortunately the Lakers aren't when it comes to LA. So there's that right there. My recommendation for Southern California sports fans that want a good basketball team, look to UCLA or USC or San Diego State. Probably UCLA is the better option, but I digress. So that is that for the NBA portion of the show. The MLB is in its off-season. NWSL is also in its off-season. So we now can get into the dum-dum of the week before we head on out. So the dum-dum of the week basically is an award I give out to multiple organizations or people that do something dumb, and do or say something dumb, and no one is safe from this award. Anyone can get this award. Now, the mini dum-dum of the week goes to USC men's basketball. So, remember when I was talking about how USC managed to lose to Florida Gulf Coast on Monday? Ooh. I think it was 2 days after Florida Gulf Coast lost to San Diego. Yes, University of San Diego. That's San Diego from the West Coast Conference. They managed to lose to them, and now it makes you wonder, how did USC lose to Florida Gulf Coast at Galen? I know it's college basketball, and I guess this shouldn't really be a dum-dum of the week, but it's I don't get it. It's Florida Gulf Coast, I don't think they have the same team as they did back in those olden days when they went through the tournament run, when they had that NCAA tournament run, but I don't know. San Diego must have really let him have it. I don't think it's because San Diego has a really good team. San Diego doesn't have the team, the best team in the West Coast Conference compared to the St. Mary's, the Gonzagas, the BYU's. But for USC men's hoops, I hope you're happy with losing to Florida Gulf Coast, because University of San Diego decided to do what you couldn't do. So congratulations, USC men's hoops. You are the mini dum-dum of the week. Now we gotta get into the actual dum-dum of the week. So everyone has their ultimate opinions on everything. Some people love to basically say this thing is better than that thing. But when you say something that is completely out of bounds or stepping over the line, then it becomes a problem. So I actually forgot to make this my dum-dum of the week well, I didn't have one last week because I was away, but I meant to have this Dum Dum of the Week before Halloween as Dan Orlovsky. So Dan Orlovsky loves to basically run his mouth and basically say some silly things. He is very infamous for bashing Justin Herbert, and it really gets on my nerves. But what he said before Halloween was absurd. He said on Twitter, Reese's Peanut Butter Cup is overrated. Most overrated candy I've seen. I was really sickened by that. I was like, oh God, not another bad take from Dan Orlovsky. And keep in mind, this is the same Dan Orlovsky that stepped out of bounds for a safety in his team's end zone. So I can't believe he would say something like that. Reese's Cups are so delicious, dude. Yes, Larry, he really did say that on Twitter. Dan Orlovsky said Reese's Cup is so overrated. And it's like, how many more bad takes does Dan Orlovsky need to have when it comes to sports and when it comes to things in general? It's like, come on, bro. I really want to show you the actual quote on this, but it's like, man, this guy, ESPN pays him like millions to make these bad takes. It's bad enough he has to pick on Justin Herbert, but for him to make that for him to say that Reese's Cups is so overrated, like I don't know what to say. Like, I really don't like the. I'm not the biggest Dan Orlovsky fan, but I don't want to say I'm a hater. But this dude, he can't just say Reese's Cups is so overrated. Like, that's just wrong, dude. That's just not cool, dude. And Larry said it best. It's the best candy in the world. And I admit I have a lot of other good candies like Kit Kat and Snickers, but you can't just bash Reese's like that. Like, it's the best darn candy I have ever tasted. Especially Reese's bars. Like, Reese's peanut butter bars, those are the bomb diggity. Like, I don't want to hear any more of these bad takes for Dan Orlovsky. Like, this is completely sickening. I'm still trying to find his quote just so I can properly quote him on this. But it's like, unless he deleted it, which if he did, he's a little baby back. But I don't know what to say about him. Like, oh my God, Dan, the more I think about this, the more it's like, and he also said that basil is the single greatest food herb ever. Now, that's not too bad of a take, but it's like, you better have a good claim to back that up, because if you don't, I'm going to throw up, and it's not just going to be one little puddle. It's going to be all over the place. But for Dan Orlovsky, I hate to tell you this, man, but your claim when it comes to Reese's Peanut Butter Cup is not a good one. And it's like, ugh, oh boy. I really don't want to do this. I've given this guy Dum Dum of the Week, but unfortunately, he's going to have to get it again this time around. He must have deleted the tweet just because I cannot find. I can't find it. Gosh darn it! I really want to call him. I really want to quote him on this, but Dan Orlovsky did say that Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are overrated. Some are even agreeing with him, and I'm like, please no, please stop. Like, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are not overrated. They are the best. They are completely good. Now, if we were talking about Reese's Pieces, I would totally understand. But it's like, I'm disappointed in you, Dan Orlovsky. And for your terrible, terrible, terrible tweet about Reese's Peanut Butter Cups being overrated for heaven knows what reason, I don't know why he decided to choose violence, but you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week award recipient number 1.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that's just Dum Dum of the Week number 1. So Dum Dum of the Week number 2. Oh. This one came across my timeline this past week. And I actually got to do 2 Dum Dums of the Week. And this one blew my mind. I don't know what this happened, but according to Zach Stevens, the beat reporter for the Denver Broncos, he said Dwayne Stukes said a Broncos player was eating a hot dog on the sideline during the Jags game back in London, and that's why the special teams got a delay of game on a kickoff. Let me read you that again. Dwayne Stukes said a Broncos player was eating a hot dog on the sideline during the Jags game in London, and that's why the special teams got a delay of game on the kickoff. Okay, you gotta be some kind of incompetent to have that happen to you. First of all, how did you get a hot dog? Are we now seeing that hot dog vendors are allowed onto the field and they're able to give hot dogs to players? And second of all, where are you getting the money to pay for that hot dog? Are you stealing? Whoever this Denver Broncos player is for having a hot dog, first of all, food is not even allowed to be on the field because bugs can get in there. Second of all, your team, because of you, your team got a delay of game because you decided to have a freaking hot dog. Bro, the Denver Broncos are a complete mess. Let's get that out of the way. But this one ups the ante tenfold. I'm sorry, but that's just embarrassing. At first, I didn't want to believe this. I thought this was fake at first, but I'm like, oh my god, he really did get in trouble. It's like, and I guess this is to clarify from Zach Stevens. Dwayne Stukes says, this tongue-in-cheek, a player wasn't actually eating a hot dog on the sideline. Well, still, how do you get a delay of game on a kickoff? Like, how? It just makes no sense. Like, I don't know what to believe anymore. Either way, the Denver Broncos got a delay of game just because of some reason. A delay of game on a kickoff. Like, how do you manage that? Like, how and why? Like, again, the Denver Broncos are a complete mess. Everyone calls the Chargers one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL. What about the Denver Broncos? Like, Broncos country, let's ride. No. And the fact that they got a delay of game because they got a delay of game on a kickoff. And I think they were the ones kicking off. It's like, what if they were the ones that were receiving? Like, the Jags could have probably kicked an onside kick and then recovered that after it went 10 yards with everyone. Oh my god. The more I think about this, the more my brain starts to hurt. But for the Denver Broncos, who got a delay of game on a kickoff for some reason whatsoever, whether it was eating a hot dog or for whatever reason, whoever caused the Broncos to get a delay of game on a kickoff, I hate to say it, and until I find out more about this, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week award recipient.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all she wrote. These are paid professionals, mind you. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Looking at my time, it is time for me to get on out of here, as I got me a business trip to attend to. You dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate you all tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Shout out to the live chat room on Spreaker. I really do appreciate y'all tuning in. Larry B, Angela, Niners Jess, Arthur Parsons, Mike Pat for popping in for a little bit. I really do appreciate y'all tuning in. It really means a lot. And Pierre Moss. I can't forget about my boy Pierre Moss. And Patty Baxter, she was listening as well. It really means a lot that y'all tuning in. For everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. You'll have yourself a great weekend. Be safe. Don't do anything dumb that'll land you on Dum Dum. I will see you Monday for set points, just because that thing is still going on, and I'll talk to you more about the USC Stanford women's volleyball match. But until then, you all have yourself a great rest of the weekend. Be safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you Monday for set point. Have a great weekend, and just remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Shout out to LAFC, by the way. Peace!